A boy asked for directions, then handed the officer a folded letter. The boy didn't look scared when he approached the officer. He looked like he had a mission, and what he did next would stay with that officer for the rest of his life. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe if you love meaningful stories, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I really enjoy seeing where these stories travel. It was just after 3 in the afternoon when Officer Daniels turned the corner onto Sycamore Street. School had just let out. He was parked near the stop sign like he did most days, helping slow the rush of cars near the elementary campus. Kids were pouring out of the school gates, laughing, backpacks bouncing, sneakers slapping the pavement. He had already waved at a few familiar faces when he noticed one boy standing alone on the sidewalk. Small, maybe 4th or 5th grade. Quiet. Wearing a too big sweatshirt and carrying a frayed backpack that hung too low on his back. The boy walked straight up to the cruiser. Not running, not unsure, just steady. Officer Daniels rolled down the window. "Hey there, you all right?" The boy nodded. "I'm trying to find the library." Daniels smiled. "It's 2 blocks up, then a left on Hawthorne. Big red brick building. You can't miss it." The boy nodded again, but didn't turn to leave. Instead, he reached into his sweatshirt pocket and pulled out a folded piece of lined paper. He held it out. Daniels looked at it for a second. "You want me to give that to someone?" The boy shook his head once. "It's for you." Daniels took the paper. The boy stepped back. "Thank you." And before Daniels could ask another question, the boy turned and walked away. Fast, but not running. Just like that, he blended into the crowd of other kids heading home. Daniels looked down at the paper, folded twice. Clean edges, small handwriting visible through the top. He glanced once more at the boy, now halfway down the street, then slowly unfolded the note. There were only 4 lines. "Hi, I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but I don't feel safe at home a lot. I thought maybe someone should know. I didn't know who else to tell." There was no name, no address, no phone number, just that. Daniels read it again, slower this time. He looked up. The boy was gone. He turned off the engine and stepped out of the car, walked quickly to the sidewalk. He looked in every direction. Kids were still walking home, parents waiting in cars, backpacks swinging down side streets. But the boy in the sweatshirt was nowhere. Daniel stood there for a long moment, the letter in his hand. The words repeated in his head. "I don't feel safe at home a lot." He walked back to the cruiser and got in. Set the letter on the passenger seat. He didn't start the engine right away, just stared through the windshield. He'd seen a lot over the years. Loud calls, emergency situations, clear danger. But this was something else. Quiet, careful, measured. He picked up the letter and read it one more time. "I thought maybe someone should know." He folded it gently and slipped it into the small notepad he kept in his uniform pocket. Then he turned the car toward the station. He didn't know the boy's name, or his address, or who he lived with. But he knew what the boy had done. He had handed his fear to a stranger in uniform, and walked away, trusting that someone would do something. Daniels wasn't sure what the next step was yet, but he knew one thing for certain. He was going to find that boy. Officer Daniels kept the letter in his pocket all night. He read it again at the station, then once more in the locker room before changing out of his uniform. At home, he unfolded it carefully at the kitchen table and laid it flat next to his coffee mug. The handwriting looked smaller in the warm light. The words hit harder. "I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but I don't feel safe at home a lot." He could still see the boy's face clearly. Calm, serious, no fear in his eyes, but not relaxed either. like someone who had thought about this moment for a long time and finally followed through. Daniels wasn't a detective. His job didn't usually involve following leads or piecing together clues. But something about this felt personal, like someone had chosen him for a reason. He didn't know if that was true, but it felt like it was. The next morning, he was at the station by 7:15. He made 2 copies of the letter, one for his supervisor, one for himself. He walked into the briefing room early and handed the original to Sergeant Klein. Klein read it quietly, didn't speak for a long moment. Then he looked up. "Do you know who the kid is?" Daniels shook his head. He didn't give a name, just asked for directions to the library, handed it to me, and walked off. Klein leaned back in his chair. "You're sure he was from the elementary school?" "He had the backpack," Daniels said. "He was walking with the rest of them. Looked like maybe 10 years old, no older than 11. Klein rubbed the bridge of his nose. "We're not filing a report yet, not without a name. But we can make some quiet calls. Start with the school. Ask if any teachers or counselors have noticed anything." Daniels nodded. "I'd like to check in personally." Klein studied him for a second. "You're taking this one to heart." Daniels looked at the letter again. "Someone asked for help. That doesn't happen every day." The sergeant gave him the go-ahead. "Just tread lightly. We don't know what we're walking into." Daniels spent the next 2 hours making calls. He reached out to the school office first, then a contact in child services. Finally, he spoke with a staff member at the district office who offered to connect him with the elementary school's counselor. She said his name was Mr. Alvarez. By noon, Daniels was standing in the front office of West Maple Elementary, holding the letter in a file and waiting for someone to meet him. Mr. Alvarez arrived within minutes. Early 30s, dressed in a plain sweater and worn slacks. He looked like someone who'd seen enough to recognize concern before words were even spoken. Daniels explained the letter. Didn't show it just yet. Described the boy. Small frame, dark sweatshirt, soft voice. Looked directly at him but didn't linger. Mr. Alvarez listened without interrupting. When Daniels finished, he nodded. "I think I know who you mean," he said quietly. Daniels waited. "There's a student named Tyler. He's in 5th grade, smart kid, but lately, withdrawn, less engaged. He doesn't talk much in group settings, but when he does, he chooses his words carefully. His teacher mentioned something last week. Nothing serious, just different energy." Daniels opened the file and slid the letter across the table. Alvarez read it slowly, then looked up. "This sounds like him. Do you think he's in danger?" "I don't know," Alvarez said. "But if he handed this to a police officer, it means he's asking for something he doesn't think he can get at home." Daniels nodded. "Can we talk to him?" "Not yet. Not without following the right channels." "Then let's start the process," Daniels said, "because I don't think this kid's going to ask again." Alvarez looked at him carefully. "You're not letting this one go, are you?" Daniels folded the letter gently, placed it back in the file, and stood. "No," he said. "I'm not." The letter stayed in Officer Daniels' front pocket for 3 more days. Not because he forgot about it. He didn't. He thought about it every morning when he put on his uniform, and every night when he took it off. It stayed close, like a reminder. Tyler, 5th grade, quiet, smart, withdrawn. Daniels didn't have a face to go with the name yet, but the boy from the sidewalk, the one who had looked him in the eye and handed him a folded truth, was becoming clearer in his memory. On Thursday morning, he got the call. Mr. Alvarez had received permission from the school district to speak with the child. There was no official investigation, no police case, just a wellness check. Quiet, respectful, careful. Daniels met him outside the school just after lunch. The halls were calm, the buzz of recess still fading as kids returned to their classrooms. They walked past rows of lockers covered in paper stars and student drawings. Mr. Alvarez led the way. "I'll introduce you, but I won't force anything. If he doesn't want to talk today, we try another time." Daniels nodded. "I just want him to know I read it." They entered the counseling room. It was small, warm, filled with books, puzzles, soft lighting. It didn't look anything like the rooms Daniels was used to. Tyler was already there. He sat at a round table, small frame hunched over a pencil, doodling on the corner of a worksheet. He looked up when they entered. His eyes darted quickly from Mr. Alvarez to the uniform. He didn't flinch, but he straightened in his seat. "Hey, Tyler," Mr. Alvarez said gently. "This is Officer Daniels. He's the one who helped with that question you had the other day." Tyler looked at the officer. His face didn't change. He just nodded. Daniels took off his hat, held it in one hand, and stayed standing near the door. He kept his voice soft. "Thanks for trusting me." Tyler didn't respond. Mr. Alvarez pulled out a chair but didn't sit. "Officer Daniels is just here to say hello. No questions unless you're okay with it." Tyler looked back down at the paper. His pencil moved, slow, not aimless. He was drawing something small in the corner. A mailbox, Daniels noticed. "I still have your note," he said. "I've read it more than once." Tyler looked up again. Still no fear, but something in his expression shifted. "I didn't know who else to give it to," he said, voice almost a whisper. Daniels nodded. "You chose right." There was a long pause. Tyler finally asked, "Am I in trouble?" "No," Daniels said quickly. "Not even close." Tyler's shoulders relaxed just slightly. "I didn't write it to get anyone in trouble," he added. "I know." Another pause. "I just didn't want to be the only one who knew," Tyler said. That line sat in the room for a long time. Mr. Alvarez gave Daniels a small nod. That was enough for today. Daniels crouched slightly to get on Tyler's level. "You don't have to tell me anything right now. I just wanted to let you know. Someone's here. When you're ready." Tyler gave the tiniest nod. Daniels stood, tapped the edge of the table lightly. "That's a good drawing, by the way." Tyler looked down at the sketch. "It's where I put the letter. In my head. I walked around with it for a while before I gave it away." Daniels nodded. "You picked a good day, and a good person." Tyler looked up. For just a second, the corner of his mouth lifted. It wasn't a full smile, but it was enough. Daniels left the school without asking for details. He didn't need them yet, because he had the most important one already. The boy who had once walked away had just started to stay. The next morning, Officer Daniels sat in his patrol car longer than usual before stepping out. He was parked in front of West Maple Elementary again, same as before, engine off, hands resting on the steering wheel. He wasn't there to start anything, just to be seen. The letter hadn't left his pocket. Inside the school, Mr. Alvarez had promised to keep things moving slowly. No pressure, no paperwork unless it was necessary. But they both knew this couldn't stay quiet forever. Daniels stepped out of the car as the bell rang. He stood near the crosswalk, waving kids across the street. A few parents nodded as they passed, but most were in a rush. That was fine with him. He wasn't looking for small talk. Around 8:05, he saw Tyler. Same too-big sweatshirt, same low-hanging backpack. He walked with his head down at first, but then looked up. Saw Daniels. Their eyes met. This time, Tyler didn't look away. He didn't smile, didn't wave, but he nodded once. Daniels nodded back. It lasted less than a second, but it felt like something had settled in the space between them. That afternoon, the school called. Mr. Alvarez said Tyler had shared a little more, not everything, but enough. He wasn't being hurt exactly, not in the way people usually think of it. But there were problems at home, big ones. Daniels listened carefully as Alvarez explained. Tyler's mom worked nights and often slept through the day. His stepdad was around more often, but rarely in a good way. Loud, cold, sometimes angry, not always violent, but the kind of presence that fills a room with pressure. The kind that makes a kid feel like breathing too loudly might set something off. No bruises, no yelling anyone could hear through the walls, just a house full of silence and a boy carrying too much of it. Daniels asked one question. "Is he safe tonight?" Mr. Alvarez hesitated. "I think so, but not supported." That was enough for Daniels. That evening, he went back to the station and met with a social worker on call. Her name was Carrie. She'd been doing the job longer than most officers had been in uniform. She read the letter. She read the notes from the school. She leaned back in her chair and let out a slow sigh. Not illegal, but not okay. Daniels nodded. That's exactly what it feels like. They agreed on next steps. Nothing invasive, nothing that would frighten the boy. Just a gentle check-in. Introduce support, create options, start the process. A few days later, Carrie made the first visit. It wasn't a raid, no patrol cars, no flashing lights, just a knock at the door and a calm voice. She spoke to the mother, asked questions, took notes, left information. It wasn't dramatic, but it was noticed. And the next time Tyler saw Officer Daniels outside the school, he did something new. He stopped, didn't walk past, didn't hide behind the crowd. He walked right up to him. "You talked to someone," Tyler said. Daniels didn't pretend not to understand. "I did." Tyler shifted his backpack on his shoulder. "Did you tell them everything?" "No, just what mattered." The boy nodded. "Okay." Then he walked inside. Daniels stayed there on the sidewalk, watching the door swing shut behind him. He didn't feel like a hero. He didn't feel like he'd done enough. But he felt like the right door had been opened. And someone, finally, had walked through it. The first time Officer Daniels saw Tyler smile, it wasn't even meant for him. It was 2 weeks after the letter. Daniels had just pulled into his usual spot near the crosswalk at West Maple Elementary. It was 7:52 a.m., the same routine, same car, same coffee in a paper cup balanced on the dashboard. He watched kids pour out of cars and off buses, backpacks swinging, sneakers scuffing the pavement. Tyler was walking across the lawn with another boy this time. Same too big sweatshirt, but something about the way he walked had shifted. Lighter, less guarded. The other boy said something. Daniels couldn't hear it, but Tyler laughed. Just once, a short sound, but real. He saw it. Then Tyler looked up and noticed him watching. Daniels gave a quiet nod like always. Tyler didn't look away. He didn't stop walking either. But this time, he nodded first. Inside the school, Mr. Alvarez had been keeping Daniels loosely in the loop. There was no active case, no court orders, but small changes had started to stack up. The school counselor checked in with Tyler once a week. A neighbor, Mrs. Langley from 2 doors down, was asked to stop by every now and then to drop off meals when she could. She was retired, had no kids of her own, but she agreed without hesitation. Tyler's teacher emailed the school once after class and wrote, "He raised his hand today. I hadn't seen that happen in months. No single fix." But the quiet was beginning to lift. One afternoon, Daniels walked into the school office to follow up with Mr. Alvarez. While he waited, the secretary handed him a small envelope with his name written on the front. No return address, no stamps. Just to Officer Daniels. Inside was a folded drawing on lined notebook paper. It was simple. Black pen, a park bench under a tree, 2 stick figures, one small, one taller, both holding paper cups. In the corner, a note. Thank you for answering when I asked for directions. Daniels didn't say anything at first, just stared at the paper in his hand. When Mr. Alvarez walked in, he noticed it right away. He's writing more now, Alvarez said. Not just school stuff, letters, little stories, things that help him understand what he's feeling. Daniels didn't look up. He ever write to anyone else? Not yet. Daniels folded the paper carefully and placed it in his notebook. That evening, he taped it inside his locker. Right above the badge he hung up every night. No one else saw it. No one needed to. The next few days followed the same pattern. Daniels showed up each morning. Tyler passed by, sometimes with a friend, sometimes alone, but always walking straighter now. Like whatever weight he'd been carrying wasn't gone, but wasn't winning anymore either. One morning, it was pouring rain. Daniels stayed in his cruiser, watching through the windshield. Most kids ran inside with their hoods up, soaked sleeves, wet shoes. Tyler stood under the awning and waited. When Daniels stepped out to grab something from the trunk, Tyler called out from across the sidewalk. You still have the letter? Daniels turned and nodded. Always. Tyler smiled, real and easy this time. Okay. Then he disappeared into the school. Daniels stood there for a moment, rain dripping from his jacket, and thought about how far things had come. No headlines, no arrests, no files stamped in red ink, just one folded letter handed to a stranger on the sidewalk. And everything that followed because of it. Tyler was waiting outside when Officer Daniels pulled up to the school. It wasn't planned. There had been no appointment, no message from Mr. Alvarez. But there he was, standing by the front gate, backpack slung over one shoulder, sweatshirt sleeves pulled over his hands. Daniels parked, stepped out of the car, and walked over slowly. Hey, he said. Tyler gave a small nod. Can we talk? Daniels glanced at the front office, then back at him. Sure. Want to sit? There was a bench not far from the sidewalk, under a tree that was just starting to lose its leaves. They sat side by side, not close, but not far either. The morning was quiet, cool. A little breeze moved through the branches above them. Tyler didn't speak right away. Daniels didn't rush him. After a moment, Tyler pulled something from his backpack. Not a letter this time, just a folded napkin. It had a small drawing on it, a police badge, crooked but detailed. The word safe was written underneath it. He held it out. Daniels took it carefully. I drew it in class, Tyler said. We were supposed to sketch a place where we feel safe, but I didn't really have a place. Just a moment. Daniels looked at the napkin, then at the boy. You felt safe when you gave me the letter? Tyler nodded. Yeah. Why? Tyler shrugged. You looked like someone who would do something, not just read it and forget. Daniels kept his eyes on him. I didn't forget. I know. They sat there for another minute. Tyler fidgeted with his sleeve. You don't have to come every day. I know, Daniel said, but I like being here. Tyler glanced at him. It's not your job? Not exactly, Daniel said. It started that way, but it's something else now. Tyler was quiet again. Then, my stepdad's been quieter lately. Daniels didn't respond. He let Tyler decide where the conversation went. He doesn't yell much now. I think maybe someone said something. Daniels nodded slowly. Sometimes just knowing someone's paying attention makes people act different. Tyler looked away for a second. I didn't want him to get in trouble. I know you didn't. I just wanted someone to see it. Daniels folded the napkin again and tucked it into his pocket. I saw it. A long breath passed between them. I'm not scared every night anymore, Tyler said. Just some nights. That's still progress. Tyler nodded. It's easier when I know someone's watching. Daniels looked out at the street, cars passing by in slow motion, the kind of quiet morning that would have felt like any other if not for this moment. You think you'll ever write another letter? He asked. Tyler thought for a second. Maybe, but I don't think I'll have to hand it to a stranger again. Daniels nodded. That's a good sign. They sat for another few minutes. Nothing more was said. The bell rang in the distance, and Tyler stood slowly. I should go, he said. Daniels stood too. You're doing okay. Tyler didn't answer right away. Then he said, I feel more like myself again. That was enough. He turned and walked toward the front steps of the school. Daniel stayed on the bench for a while after that, watching, listening to the wind in the trees, feeling the folded napkin in his pocket. It wasn't part of any report. It wouldn't be pinned to any board. But to him, it meant everything. The school year moved on. Leaves started falling. The morning air turned cooler. The bus line outside the school grew longer with every week, filled with the same backpacks and hurried goodbyes, the same nervous energy before the first bell. But for Officer Daniels, everything felt different now. He still parked near the crosswalk most mornings. Same routine, same thermos of black coffee. But he wasn't just there to monitor traffic anymore. He was watching for one kid. Not hovering, not interfering, just staying visible. Tyler didn't always stop to talk. Some days he barely nodded. Other times he'd walk by with a small wave or a quiet, hey. Once or twice he introduced Daniels to a friend, kids who never asked many questions but seemed to understand that this officer wasn't just doing his job. He was showing up. It had been nearly a month since the first letter. Daniels hadn't expected much after their bench conversation. He thought maybe that was the end of it. A moment shared, quietly meaningful, something you carry but don't need to revisit. But then came the second letter. It wasn't handed to him this time. It was waiting under the windshield wiper of his cruiser. Folded neatly, notebook paper again, no name on the outside. Just the corner creased with care. He opened it right there on the sidewalk. Hi again. I didn't think I'd write another one, but I wanted to say something. The days feel different now. Not perfect, not easy, but lighter. I still think about the scary parts, but now they don't feel like the only parts. I think that's because someone listened. I think that's because of you. Daniels folded the letter slowly. He didn't smile. He didn't tear up. He just stood there and let the words settle. It was only 4 sentences, but it felt heavier than anything he'd read in a long time. He slipped the paper into his jacket pocket, right next to the original letter. He never planned to take them out. They didn't belong in a report or a folder. They weren't for anyone else. They were reminders. Later that day, Daniels stopped by the school office to thank Mr. Alvarez. The counselor smiled as soon as he saw the officer walk in. He's doing better, Alvarez said before Daniels even spoke. His teachers have noticed. He's turning in assignments again, raising his hand, laughing. Daniels nodded. He left another letter. Alvarez smiled again. He told me he might. Still no official report. No home visits? We've had one, just to make sure the environment was stable. Mom's more involved now. She's made space for him to talk. Daniels raised an eyebrow. And the stepdad? Alvarez hesitated. Still there, but quieter, more distant. That might be the best outcome we can hope for right now. Daniels accepted that. Sometimes help isn't about solving everything. Sometimes it's about shifting the weight just enough so someone can breathe again. That weekend, Daniels didn't wear his uniform. He didn't patrol. He didn't check in with the school. He sat at home, made coffee, and read both of Tyler's letters again, carefully, like they were something fragile. And then, without really thinking, he pulled out a piece of his own notebook paper and started writing. It wasn't official. It wasn't formal. But it was real. Tyler, I didn't forget your first letter. And I won't forget this one either. You're not just brave. You're steady. And you're honest. That's more than most adults I know. I hope you keep writing, even if it's just for yourself. I'm proud of you. He didn't sign it with his title, just his first name. One adult to one kid. One person who listened, writing back to someone who trusted him too. He'd give it to him when the time was right. Maybe next week, maybe never. But just knowing he had written it, that was enough. Monday morning started like most others. Officer Daniels arrived early, parked in his usual spot near the crosswalk, and sipped from his thermos as the neighborhood came to life around him. Car doors slammed. Kids laughed. Bus brakes hissed in the distance. He scanned the crowd as he always did, eyes moving across a sea of backpacks and sneakers. Tyler hadn't come through yet. Daniels wasn't worried, but he was always aware. At 8:07 he spotted him. Tyler was walking with a friend again. Same sweatshirt, same relaxed shoulders. But today, something was tucked under his arm. A red folder, worn at the edges. He glanced toward the cruiser, saw Daniels, and waved. Daniels waved back. It was just a quick exchange, one of many, but it had a rhythm now, a routine that hadn't existed before. As Tyler walked past, he broke away from his friend for just a second and approached the car. "Morning," he said. Daniels leaned out the window. "Hey, good weekend?" Tyler nodded. "Yeah." He hesitated, then pulled a small folded paper from his folder and held it out. Daniels took it. "Another letter?" Tyler shrugged. "Sort of." He turned before the officer could ask anything else, jogged back toward the building, and disappeared through the front doors. Daniels unfolded the note right there in the cruiser. Not a letter, just a list. There were 4 lines beneath it. Things I'm not scared of anymore. Asking questions, quiet rooms, making mistakes, people who listen. Daniels read it twice, then folded it carefully and placed it in his jacket pocket. The shift was real now. Not just in tone, not just in posture. It was showing up in words. Confidence. Ownership. Tyler wasn't just surviving anymore. He was noticing, naming things, taking inventory of the weight he'd been carrying and what he was slowly setting down. That afternoon, Daniels decided it was time. He pulled out the note he had written the week before, the one he hadn't planned to deliver right away, the one he had folded and unfolded so many times that the creases were beginning to soften. The next morning, he tucked it in a plain envelope with Tyler's name on the front. First name only, no other markings. He waited outside the school, same as always. Tyler approached just before the bell, walking alone this time. As he reached the sidewalk, Daniels stepped out of the cruiser and met him halfway. "I've got something for you," he said, handing him the envelope. Tyler looked down at it, then up at Daniels. "What is it?" "Just something I wanted you to read. When you're ready." Tyler didn't open it right there. He tucked it carefully into his folder and gave a short nod. "Thanks." He walked inside, and Daniels didn't expect to hear anything about it. He figured it might sit in that folder for a while. Maybe Tyler would read it that night. Maybe he'd read it weeks from now. Maybe he'd never read it at all. But 2 days later, something unexpected happened. Daniels returned to his cruiser after grabbing lunch and found another envelope under his windshield wiper. Inside was a note. I read your letter. I didn't know grown-ups wrote things like that. Not unless they had to. You didn't have to, but you did. I think I want to be like that someday. There was no signature, just a small doodle in the corner. A police badge with the word "Listen" written across the center. Daniels sat in the driver's seat for a long time after that. He didn't drive anywhere. He didn't turn the radio on. He just sat there, holding the note in both hands, thinking about what it meant to matter to someone you barely knew. The boy who once stood on a sidewalk, unsure of who would care, was now imagining the kind of person he might grow into. And somehow, through a few folded notes and 1,000 quiet moments, Officer Daniels had become part of that story. It was late February when Officer Daniels saw Tyler again. Not in front of the school, not at the bench, but at a bus stop on the other side of town. He was off duty, no uniform, just a coat, jeans, and a grocery bag in one hand. The weather had started to warm, just a little. The sidewalk still had patches of ice, but the sun was finally showing up again. Daniels was crossing the street when he noticed the boy sitting on the bench. He looked older somehow, though it had only been a few months. He was laughing with another kid, someone about his age, the two of them sharing a pair of earbuds and a bag of chips. There was nothing special about the moment. But Daniels stopped walking. It was the first time he'd seen Tyler outside the context of school. Not during pickup, not outside the counselor's office, not handing over a letter. Just existing. The boy who had once walked up to a patrol car and handed over a folded note asking for help was now sitting at a bus stop, smiling. Daniels didn't interrupt. He stood for a minute, unnoticed, then turned and walked into the corner store. By the time he came out, the boys were still there, waiting, chatting, relaxed. Tyler looked up and saw him. Their eyes met. Daniels didn't wave. He didn't call his name. He just gave a short, calm nod. Tyler nodded back. It was barely more than a second, but there was something unspoken in it. A thank you that no longer needed to be said. A recognition that lived quietly between them. Daniels walked to his car, groceries in hand, and drove home. He thought about all the times he'd wondered if he was doing enough, if showing up at the school every morning really made a difference, if a few quiet conversations and a letter exchanged between a kid and a cop could change anything that mattered. Now he knew. It hadn't changed everything, but it had changed something. Tyler had started writing stories. That's what Mr. Alvarez had told him a few weeks earlier. Short ones. Some made up. Some based on things he never talked about in real life. He'd started raising his hand in class more, eating lunch with friends, turning in assignments. He wasn't fixed. Life wasn't suddenly easy, but it was different. That night, Daniels opened the drawer in his bedroom where he kept the notes. There were 5 in total. Tyler's first letter. His second note, the one with the bench drawing. The list of things he wasn't afraid of anymore. The short reply about Daniel's own letter, and the badge drawing that had said, "Listen." Daniels read through them one by one. Then he added something of his own. A small card. Just a few lines. You changed me too. You reminded me why I chose this job in the first place. Not for the loud days, not for the action, for moments like this, for people like you. He folded it, labeled the envelope with 2T, and placed it behind the others. No plan to give it to him. Maybe someday. Maybe never. But it belonged there. Weeks passed, spring arrived, and the letter stayed where it was. Every now and then Daniels would pass the school. He'd look toward the crosswalk and think of Tyler. Not the boy who wrote the letter, but the boy who didn't need to anymore. That was the difference. The folded note had started something. Not a case, not a rescue, but a conversation. And sometimes that's exactly what saves someone. Not being fixed, not being told what to do, just being heard and being believed. All from one folded letter, handed quietly to a stranger who decided not to ignore it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy meaningful stories like this, we'd love to have you as a subscriber.